the phobia, as well as, shall we say, anchors a positive phobia, if you like, because it just puts positive sensations into it rather than negative sensations of the true phobia. What it requires is a hypnotic context. No hypnosis, no anchor. No hypnosis, no phobia. Now, life can trigger the hypnotic context, but if it doesn't, nothing happens. You can trigger the hypnotic context, in which case all these wonderful NLP things, they work fantastic. But if you don't, good luck. I happen to believe that hypnosis is a real force for good. You can do amazing things for people, and I'd like nothing better than for the whole world to be inspired and to realize that what's sitting between their ears has such an immense capacity that we haven't even scratched the surface with what we're capable of doing. So how would you like to give people an experience of that? Wouldn't that be something worth doing?
Yes.
Let's grab into a slightly different bag now. Let's look at what hypnosis has to offer us in something like NLP. Anyone heard of NLP?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. All the hands go up. I like it. For those of you not familiar with it, it stands for Neurolinguistic Programming. And it's a very clever, shall we say, sort of process. I love it to pieces. It's a great method, and particularly because it allows you to do hypnosis and call it something completely different. Really, that's really all NLP is. And I don't mean to trash NLP as a subject because of that, because there are some amazing things within it that provide genuine value. But one of the most wonderful things about NLP is it is an exercise in frame control, right? I won't hypnotize you, but I'm going to show you something called anchoring. Right? For those of you who don't know, anchoring is basically, it's described as a stimulus response. When you say, you make a magic wave and people go, oh, I feel fantastic. Or you point and suddenly they go on and switch lights on and off compulsively, not knowing why, right? I don't know if you know this, but a conditioned response is an incorrect way of describing an anchor. Because a true conditioned response requires hours and hours and hours of training with lots of cheese and a little cage. Basically, it requires lots and lots of trials for it to happen, for the association to occur spontaneously. An anchor looks like a conditioned response. Go ahead, Lenny.
I once heard Richard Bandler tell that it is a stimulus response because phobic does it in one time.
We'll come on to what we mean by that in a moment. A true conditioned response, though, is something that's learned over lots of trials, right? Just look at the literature. This is how it's defined in the psychological literature. What we need to look at is why does anchoring work with one trial? And the phobia is a great example of this. Right? And you're right, there is a kind of conditioned response. See the stimulus, have a response. And it happens in one trial. So what's different between a phobia and classical conditioning, which is what, when people refer to conditioned response, we're about? What's the difference there? Because in understanding that difference, we now have the power to create what looks like a conditioned response, but in one trial. No cheese necessary, no cages, no light switches. Would that be interesting to find out? Let me present it to you in this way. What if an anchor, instead of being classically conditioned over lots of repetition and so on, what if it's simply a post-hypnotic suggestion? What if the pairing occurs because the person's mind at that point in time happens to be wide open? It's in a trance state. So the pairing happens instantaneously rather than through lots of repetition and so on. Does that kind of make sense? Now let's look at exactly the example you gave me, which is, I think, very accurate. What about a phobia? That happens once off. Little Johnny's walking down the street, big dog goes, woof! Little Johnny goes, ah! Next day he walks down the road, sees a dog and goes, ah! That's one trial learning, isn't it? But what happens in that moment of fear? Let me think, let me see this. Do we have some attention focus somewhere? Would you say the critical factor is analyzing the situation at this point and going, let me see, this is a little doggy and has no teeth, so I should be okay with this. Yes, go ahead, bark, all you want. Is that what's going on? Or is there panic? What's going on? Not thinking. Do we have the unconscious mind stimulated? Is there a strong emotion present? Is there a focal point drawing their attention towards it? Is there any wonder that that dog now gets associated inside the mind with lots of fear, so that any other time he sees a dog, he feels the same kind of fear? Now, this is very important. What makes that work, the phobia, as well as, shall we say, anchors a positive phobia, if you like, because it just puts positive sensations into it rather than negative sensations of the true phobia. What it requires is a hypnotic context. No hypnosis, no anchor. No hypnosis, no phobia. Now, life can trigger the hypnotic context, but if it doesn't, nothing happens. You can trigger the hypnotic context, in which case all these wonderful NLP things, they work fantastic. But if you don't, good luck. I'm serious. Has anyone here ever tried an NLP technique and it's failed? Right? The reason it's failed is probably because you were missing something in the hypnotic context. Most usually, it's the critical factor pi paths I've seen failing when they haven't quite worked out. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? So now let's look at why we looked at street hypnosis. We haven't written the word street hypnosis down here, have we? No. And there's a reason for it. Because if you take the context away, this is not a bar anymore. It could actually be a bar. But instead of like demonstrating like how to stick a hand to someone to the table, what if you gave someone a gift? Wouldn't that be exactly the same process? This is really what will make NLP work. Let's say you even do this in a bar. But instead of saying, I'm a hypnotist, I'm an NLP practitioner, which will mean absolutely nothing to most people. So that's a wasted frame, really. Right? So you need to create a context slightly differently, right? You need to open that mind up slightly differently. There's not the expectations anymore. I mean, you can call yourself a hypnotist, which is fine, in which case it becomes a hypnotic technique, not an NLP anymore, because, well, you're doing the same things, it's just you're calling it something different, right? Or you open the mind up in a different way. Now, can you think of a way that you can open up someone's mind when it might be a little bit critical too much at first? Maybe a way where they go, ah, you mean you can do these things? If you were to take a wild guess, magic moment, what would you say that would be? Any ideas? That's right, a magic moment. How did you know?
I don't know, it just came to me, maybe.
So we'd like to spend some time just learning a basic NLP technique, but actually more importantly, finding a way of creating the context so that you can make it work anytime, any place, anywhere, with anyone you want to. Would that be something cool?
Yes.
Right?
If you found this insightful, make sure to subscribe for more fascinating discussions on the power of the mind and hypnosis.